All right, and joining me on the phone now, really excited to have this guest. I had him almost exactly 1 year ago, nearly to the day. Really enjoyed talking hoop with him. He is, of course, the head coach of the North Carolina State Wolfpack. Kevin Keatts is on the phone. Coach, how you doing this morning?
I am doing well, and I'm doing as best as you can, being in a pandemic. But look, I'm so excited that obviously our one time a year that we get a chance to talk is always fun. And so this is the time of the year that you and I get to chat about basketball a little bit.
Yeah, no, and it's normally one of the rare downtimes that you guys have, which is why I think that we did it this time last year, was because I think you guys had some summer camps and stuff like that, but May is traditionally a pretty slow month for college basketball coaches, if such a thing exists. My first question is the most obvious one, is just, obviously, look, there's bigger issues in the world. We're not trying to deny that a sports writer and a college basketball coach in the grand scheme probably don't have it very bad. But, we all are dealing with a new norm. You and I were discussing it a little bit before we came on air. How are you and your family handling it? Obviously, I'm guessing at this point it's pretty unlike anything that you've ever experienced in your career. How is the Keatts family down in Raleigh holding up?
Well, that's a great question. I will say this, after a while, probably after like 2 or 3 days of the pandemic when things got shut down, we realized, and I realized from my end, that this is bigger than any sports. And this is not something that's just happening in the United States, it's across the world. And so I think everybody has had to become used to a different new norm. It's weird because obviously all of your in-person communication has changed. So a lot of the action I've had is either on FaceTime or text messaging or even Zoom. I don't think anybody knew what Zoom was 7 weeks ago, but now everybody does. Yeah. But my family's doing well. I got 2 boys, 16 and 11, and they both like basketball, so we try to get out in the driveway every day. Cool. To get some shots up and work on some ball handling. We have tremendous, if we didn't, which we always have, but we've got tremendous respect for teachers. I think when your kids are here all day long, you understand how important teachers are, and I think every teacher in the world needs a raise. Absolutely.
What about your staff? I mean, we'll get into the recruiting stuff in a minute, but you guys recently filled your final scholarship of 2020. 2021 is off to a good start. I know you can't talk about those kids specifically, but it doesn't feel as though your staff has slowed down at all. I mean, I guess I would just ask, what was the game plan once, like you said, a day or two, we're all adjusting, we're all just trying to figure out what life is going to be like, but it feels like you guys kind of hit the ground running once it became official, hey, we're going to be at home for a while. What is your staff or even your team or whatever, what is a day like for NC State basketball right now?
Well, the first thing I told my staff is, even though we're in a pandemic, doesn't mean you stop working. Yep. You have to get creative. You have to do different things. And, and here's the most important thing. You have to recruit your current roster because typically those guys would have been here towards the end of the year and we could have started workouts, but everybody's spread out. So we've done a lot of Zoom calls with those guys. My staff has done a tremendous job making sure our guys understand and do their best on exams. I don't think people understand this. Most of every school in the country has kind of went on to online classes, and that's not a bad thing, but it's a bad thing if you've got a couple students who are not strong students and they're not used to taking an online class. So my guys have done a tremendous job recruiting. I like where we're at in recruiting. We just obviously signed a young man that's going to be really good for us, but we're also trying to get involved with some 21s and 22s and continue to recruit, and until things turn to be normal again, that's the way we got to go about business. So I've been happy with those guys. It's crazy. But I know they're working because they're sending me texts about who we need to be on Zoom with, who should I text, sure. Who do I need to call. So we're getting a lot of stuff done, even though we're not in the office.
It's crazy because you did just mention a minute ago re-recruiting your own roster, and I would just be curious. I know you mentioned just kind of keeping tabs on them academically, But how do you keep the relationship going? Because, I mean, unfortunately, this is the time of year in college basketball where sometimes a kid starts looking to transfer, or he's not feeling great about his situation, and it feels like, and maybe I missed something, but it feels like you've had good roster continuity, that the guys that you had on the roster are really happy with where they're at. I mean, what has it been like kind of continuing that relationship, even though it is virtual online?
Well, I think the most important thing is you got to recruit them over and over. There was a little talk about, obviously, the one-time transfer rule going in effect, this year. I don't think that'll happen now. But also, you want them to know that you care about them. They're your family. And so a lot of times when I'm talking to our guys through Zoom or texting or, even just having a phone conversation, I want them to know, a couple of things that are really important to me. How's your family doing? Are you staying safe? And then how you coming along academically? When you build a relationship with some guys that's in your program, they know how to play basketball. It's the other things that have changed that they got to be aware of, and making sure, number one, that everybody's family is safe. That's important to me. And I've done I've reached out to a few parents to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. But I want our guys, when we do get through this pandemic, I want our guys to come out stronger than we were before. That means, from a basketball standpoint of knowledge, health-wise, and also academically. So we're still doing those type of things, just trying to build every young man into a real man.
Very good. Listen, it's a question that I'm sure you've been asked a lot the last couple months, but take us through the final couple games of your guys' season. I mean, you guys were in the position you were on the bubble. You finished tied for 5th in the ACC. You win your ACC opener. I remember watching it. I was in Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament. I was about to head to the arena, and you guys take care of business, and you're slated to play Duke 24 hours later, and it all obviously goes to hell in a 24-hour period. Just take us through, for the NC State fan, or really for a college basketball fan that either hasn't heard you tell the story or is just curious what that 24-hour stretch looked like, because obviously, look, it goes without saying, we've been saying it for the last 2 months, it's surreal. We've never dealt with anything like that. I would assume you, as a head coach, have never dealt with a season quite ending like that. Just take us through, for fans, like what was it like for you as a coach, a leader of men, as you just said, to have to deal with something like that?
Well, first of all, I thought we were playing really good basketball at the right time. And I'll go back to this and then I'll get to the tournament. We played a senior night game against Wake Forest, and I thought we were clicking in all cylinders. We did some good things. We sent our seniors out the right way, seniors and post-grad. And so, obviously, we get a bye the first round of the ACC tournament, and we play a very good, dangerous, young Pitt team. And we played tremendously well. So we stacked 2 games back-to-back. And then we have the opportunity to play Duke. Duke, who won, we lost to Duke at Duke, and we won here at home by 22. So it was a chance to obviously kind of figure out where we're at as a program and how much have we grown, going into the ACC in year 3. So that morning, we're preparing. We're going to play, the second game of the day, and we're preparing. I think Clemson and Florida State was going to play before us, and so we got dressed at the hotel. We were going to meet at 10:30. Throughout that morning, I kept hearing rumblings about the ACC may get canceled, and I said, "Man, that'd be crazy." I don't think anybody understood how big COVID-19 was at the time. So by the time we got to our meeting at 10:30, my meeting changed from talking about what we need to do to be successful against Duke to we're not going to play the ACC tournament. And I'm going to give you guys, we're going to probably leave our hotel, which we were in Greensboro, about an hour away. We're going to leave our hotel in about 2 hours, and we're going to get back to Raleigh, and I'm going to keep you posted about whether we're playing in the NCAA, whether that's going to be canceled or not. Mm-hmm. And so I got back to Raleigh with the guys. First of all, I talked to them about the tournament, and I apologize to the seniors. I said, I know that you wanted to play an ACC tournament, but we have an opportunity. We're going to make the tournament. At the time, we had 11 Power 5 wins. So I said, we're going to make the tournament. So I got them back to Raleigh, and we kind of went our own ways. And then the next morning, I had to call them back in because a couple hours after I got to Raleigh, we found out that there were not going to be any NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, man, that's the toughest thing you have to sit down and talk to a kid about because obviously they're looking forward to it. I had, C.J. Bryce, who transferred up to Wilmington, wanted his opportunity to play in his third NCAA. Markel Johnson, who was our senior point guard, wanted to play in the NCAA for his second time. And then I had two fifth-year guys who came to NC State because they wanted the opportunity to play in the tournament. Mm-hmm. So everything changed just like that. I mean, it was at a blink of an eye. And, I'll be honest with you, when they first counseled the NCAA, I was very disappointed because I said, man, why wouldn't they just postpone it for a couple of weeks and see what can happen? Mm-hmm. Now, looking back at it, and I look back at it, probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, it was absolutely the right thing to do. When we get into the point where our kids' safety and coaches' safety is at stake, we've got to take different cautionary situations. And I thought we did a good job, and I thought, our commissioner did a great job, and all of the presidents and chancellors and the ACC and ADs, I thought everybody handled it the right way.
Yeah, all I'll say is that I'm guilty of that as well, of thinking, is there a way to postpone this? I understand kids want to start getting ready for the draft and all the different variables that come in, but at the end of the day, I did think at the time, hey, can't you just push this off 2-3 weeks, see if there's any way to make it happen? Obviously, in hindsight, that was never going to happen. Was there any kind of overarching message to your team when that happened? And the only reason I ask is because, like you said, you had kids that came with you, had never played in a tournament or hadn't been to a tournament in a long time, that were really, in a position to do that. And obviously it's a circumstance that's obviously out of everybody's control. Sometimes, as our parents always told us, life isn't fair. Was that kind of the message? I mean, what was the message the final time, I'm guessing, that you were with your team?
Well, the message was, this is bigger than us. Mm-hmm. This is bigger than NC State. This is bigger than basketball. At that time, a lot of people were affected by it. We were all in the learning process, and I still think we're doing it now. But my message to them guys is I feel sorry for you because I know you're looking for the opportunity. But we've got to realize that you got to turn your attention to making sure that you're safe, making sure that your family's safe. You've had a tremendous year. You won't be defined because you don't go to the NCAA because there's a pandemic. Mm-hmm. And, I thought our guys handled it well. There were a lot of disappointment. There was some crying in the room. But for me, I had to get them to understand that this is bigger than basketball.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I think it's something we've all realized over the last couple months. I do want to transition ahead to next season, and I know it's still only May, and there's a lot of time left, and frankly, we don't even know what a season could potentially look like in terms of on campus, no fans, all that kind of stuff. But, assuming that there is a season, assuming it gets back to normal, knock on wood, we all hope everybody's safe, all that stuff. But real quick, I was looking at your all sorts of stuff this morning as I was preparing, and I noticed something kind of interesting, and I don't know if it means anything to you or not, but your recruiting class was very highly ranked. One kid did choose the pro option, but I believe 4 out of the top 6 players from the state of North Carolina in 24/7 Sports have signed with the NC State Wolfpack. I don't know if it's happenstance. I don't know if it was a plan by your staff. But one, I'd love to tell you a little bit about I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that recruiting class. And is it just coincidental that you guys really locked down the state of North Carolina this year? Is it the goal every year? I mean, I'm just kind of curious about that, honestly.
Yeah, I love my class.
Sure.
We've got size, we've got athletic ability, we've got quickness, and you're right. We signed 4 out of the 5 are from the state of North Carolina. Was that planned? I can't actually say that it was. We like to recruit nationally, but our coaches, assistant coaches, did a tremendous job of identifying some really good players in our state. And if we can land some guys who are good players in your state, then and certainly that says a lot about your program. You got to almost try to put a fence around your state and don't let everybody come in and get the good players. And so we identified these guys early, They did a tremendous job of recruiting, and obviously I was the one that had to close the deal on it. That being said, I love our roster. For the first time, though we're young in certain areas, we may have 9 or 10 guys that fully play the system that I like to play, both offensively and defensively. And so right now, as of today, we're too deep at every position. And I like the veterans that are coming back. Now, of course, Markel Johnson and C.J. Bryce, who are seniors, they mean so much to our program. Now, will you completely have a guy that can step in right away and perform as they did? Probably not. It's probably going to take a little time. But not only do we have 5 freshmen, we had another young man, Thomas Allen, who transferred from Nebraska, who set out. And then Darion Sevron, who would have been a freshman. He was an academic redshirt. So we've got 2 guys that pretty much practice with us all year long. And then when you add the Devin Daniels and the Braxton Beverleys and Jericho Helms, and then obviously whatever happens with DJ Funderburg, we've got an exciting team, and I really like the combination of guys that we have.
So I saw you say this in another interview. Leonard Hamilton has been on this show, and we talked about kind of his approach. Basically, they're exactly what you just described your team as. Too deep at every position, play a lot of guys. It's not about the number of minutes, but it's all going to work out in the end. And Florida State has had a ton of success, ACC regular season champs, and they put a ton of guys in the league. Was that always – I know what you did at Wilmington, but was that kind of part of the plan? Because I saw you reference Leonard Hamilton's program. They've had a ton of success, and it feels like, at least from a distance, that you guys are trying to build something a little bit similar.
Yeah, I've always played that way. We've always had at least 9 or 10 guys that we can put in the game, and our motto kind of is play as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then we're going to substitute and have another guy do the same thing. Well, we haven't been able to do that last year. This past season, I thought we had that, but we had some unfortunate injuries. This year we had a few concussions that I hadn't seen before, obviously in my coaching career. But yeah, I want to play fast. I want to play a lot of guys, and I want guys to buy into our system. It's important when I went out there to recruit that I got guys that fit my culture. I got guys that fit the culture of NC State, and then it doesn't matter if you're a 3-star guy, if you're a 5-star guy. If you're not bought into the system, then you're not going to be a good player here. And so we just go after guys who fit the system, who are good people, and obviously want to have a chance to play at the next level.
You just mentioned the culture of NC State. What is the culture of NC State?
Well, we punch the clock, and not just in basketball. My vision when I took over the program is to get it where I wanted it. And my vision of an NC State player is a guy who works hard in the classroom, a guy who has a good time socially but not over the top, and a guy who can play so hard on the basketball court. You don't even have to be the skilled guy. You have to be able to compete and play hard. And, typically in recruiting you get 2 out of the 3, but I'm trying to get 3 out of the 3 because I think if you win off the court, you can win on the court.
So real quick, couple quick questions, I'll let you go. One, I referenced a minute ago, so you guys for the second straight year, and again, ironically, I had you on last year and I asked you about a kid by the name of Jalen LeCue. He was one of these kind of weird fifth-year guys that was sort of eligible for the draft. He ends up leaving. You have a kid this year, Josh Hall, choose the same. Two-part question. One, just thoughts on losing this guy. I mean, obviously, I think you probably knew for at least a little while that it was a possibility. And then 2, just kind of this weird time that we're in with this G League stuff because, my whole thing is I have no fundamental issue with the G League, but it's weird to me that a kid like that that's committed to you can go straight to the NBA, but then we have other kids that played high school last year that have to go to the G League, and it's just a very strange time. You're certainly living it almost as much as anybody. I'd be curious kind of to that 2-part question.
Yeah, I'm the expert in that. So you're actually the right person.
I hate to ask, but I got to ask. Yeah.
No, I'm the expert. No, I tell you what, I'm happy for Jalen LeCue, and I'm going to be happy for Josh Hall. You have to do what's best for you and your family. And with Josh, he decided a little bit later on that's what he wanted to do. The reason why he's eligible for the draft is because he's 19 years old, had graduated and 1 year removed from, basically high school, so he's a post-grad.
Sure.
And the same thing that happened with LeCue. The other guys with the G League, the guys that are going to the G League, they don't have to be 19 years old. They don't have to be 1 year removed. Instead of going overseas, the G League came up with a formula and a payment plan that could help some of those guys stay here in the States and be able to compete. What I would say to guys like that is, your opportunity in college, don't take that for granted.
Yeah, I agree.
You get started off on your academics. Our product right now is way better than the G League. You're playing in front of 20,000 people. You're traveling first class. Some of those G League teams are playing in front of 500 people. So it's a little bit different. I think we have a big enough stage that if you wanted to be a one and done, you can. It's been proven in our league. It's been proven across college basketball. But I never judge. I can never tell. I've got 2 kids, and when they get to a certain age, my wife and myself and my 2 kids, we have to make a decision. And sometimes it's not the popular decision or what everybody else thinks it should be. So I never look back on it. I'm excited about Josh. Josh would have been a really, really good player for us. He's 6'9" and can play, obviously, the 3 position. Very talented kid. But you know what? After that, I've got to go out and find some guys that want to be here and that's going to compete the way I want them to compete.
Very good. 2 quick questions. One, first of all, by the way, I agree with everything that you said. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get paid. I would also argue an ACC stage is a very good thing if you're trying to build a brand outside of basketball as you head to the NBA. I mentioned the ACC. I was very quickly curious on your thoughts on the 20-game league schedule for this year. It's where college hoops is going. I don't know if you think it helped or it hurt you, but it's been kind of a big topic of conversation, and I'm just kind of curious for your thoughts.
Well, it took some time to get adjusted. I don't mind a 20-game schedule, but it's a little difficult because all schedules are not created equal. Everybody doesn't play everybody twice. You may have one guy, one team, like we went to Virginia, had a great win, but we only played them once this year. This past year, we played Carolina and Duke twice. The only thing I didn't like about our 20-game schedule last year is that we opened the season with an ACC game. And that's always tough because typically in the summertime, you may have some guys that are coming off injuries. You may have to discipline a couple guys for the first 2 games of the year. You don't have that ability to play a non-conference game that may be a lesser opponent. You jump right into the ACC, but it's where we are. We're not going backwards. So we're going to continue to play 20 and you just have to adjust to it.
Very good. I know we kind of talked about kind of the layout of your team. First of all, do we have any idea when DJ Funderburk, so for people who don't know, he would be your leading returning scorer and I believe leading returning rebounder too. Is there any time frame? I know the deadline has been extended. Do we have any idea when he may or may not make a decision?
We don't. He wants to. The year before, Markel Johnson put his name in the draft the same way. And really, he obviously he got the information back that he wasn't going to get drafted, but he wanted to go through some workouts and be able to see. The tough thing for a guy like DJ is there probably not going to be any workouts. And so he's got to figure out with his family, is this the right situation? When is the right time to come back? If they were to open it up and say that there is a possibility there's some workouts, that's fine. I encourage him to go through that because I think feedback helps him become a good player. But I don't have a time frame. We're all kind of waiting to see what the NCAA says because we were thinking it was going to be June 3rd, but obviously it's going to be extended longer than that. So a lot of that's going to depend on when he has to make a decision, whether he makes one or not.
All right, last question. I know you kind of laid out the layout of the team for 2020, 2021. Again, there's a lot to be figured out both off the court and then, of course, a lot of time until you get back on the court. But I just wanted to say it sounds like you're really excited about this 2021 team. I mean, is that a fair assessment as we are still ideally about 4 or 5 months away from the start of the season?
Yeah, if you ask me, Aaron, today, how do I feel about our team, I'm excited because we got 2 different teams. We've got an older bunch of guys that, obviously if DJ returns, I love that group. 3 of those guys out of that group with DJ, Manny Bates, and Devin Daniels. started a bulk of the games this year, but Braxton Beverly has started a bulk of the games throughout his whole career. So you really got 4 guys that's back that started, and then Jericho Helms has had some time to start. What hurts us, the mere fact that, in the past we would be able to get those 5 freshmen on campus and have 8 weeks to work with them, getting them better, getting them understanding how hard they got to compete. That's the tough thing about it, because obviously we may not have a chance to coach those guys in the summer, and the first time that we may have a chance to work them out is when school starts. And so that becomes a tougher challenge. But I love our young guys. I love our young guys' mentality. I think our returning guys have experienced a lot of success. We're good players and good assistant coaches. We're one of 7 programs to start, their first 3 years winning 20 games, and we want to kind of continue to build on that.
Very good. Kevin Keatts, the head coach of the NC State Wolfpack, very kind to join me today. Coach, I appreciate it. I hope we don't go another full year between chatting. I hope maybe we'll catch up closer to the start of the season, assuming that there is, in fact, a season as scheduled. But, man, I always appreciate you making some time, and I hope you and your family stay safe, and I hope we chat soon.
Well, listen, we need to go ahead and make this right now. You and I, man, we do good together on the radio, man. So we have to, let's make sure that we don't make it a year. Let's schedule something every 6 months. And you and I talk, and it's crazy because we can talk forever, man. And I love you. I think you always ask great questions, and I love the job that you're doing. So I look forward to talking to you a little bit more than just 1 year away,
There we go. So I don't have to start booking my calendar for May of 2021 yet. We can focus on 2020 still.
Absolutely. And listen, as always, I really appreciate you, and thank you for having me on.
Head coach Kevin Keatts, NC State.